Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports, and today we are going to preview the Final Four, talk a little bit about the Elite Eight, but we have two very mid basketball minds on in Noah Benzing and Austin Kurashima. They're two buddies of mine, so should be a great show. Let's get it right into it, boys. We have two matchups. It is Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, Miami, and UConn, right? There is not a single person on earth who predicted this.
No,
right?
There are 38 people, right? Isn't that the amount of brackets?
I legitimately have no idea. It's 38 out of 20 million.
Out of 20 million, yep.
That actually seems like kind of insane.
Is this for ESPN or CBS?
I think just ESPN stats, but
yeah, it's crazy what it took to come here. As far as like Florida Atlantic winning on what probably wasn't the correct call in the game against Memphis, and now here we are, playing against San Diego State. Let's talk about that game first, since it's the first game on Saturday. What are you guys excited to watch from this standpoint? Because it's easy to get hyped for a Kentucky North Carolina matchup or UNC Duke. Like, we did not have to sell that at all last year. Why should we be excited to watch FAU and San Diego State?
Well, I think just for the sport of college basketball, that any time that the Blue Bloods aren't dominating, that it's a good thing because it gains exposure for a lot of other schools as well, which once you move towards parity, that's only a positive. In terms of this game, I'm excited to see if Matt Bradley can bounce back for San Diego State. He's played kind of shitty his last two games. Without Darian Trammell and Lamont Butler, San Diego State would not be in the Final Four right now, which is I don't think anybody would have said to begin with if Matt Bradley was their third and fourth leading scorer in the Elite Eight and Sweet 16. I don't think anybody would have had the Aztecs in the Final Four. So looking to see if he can bounce back. And then obviously I'm a huge John L. Davis fan for FAU. I think he's a real dynamic player and excited to see what he can do.
What are your thoughts, AK?
Is it Mensa? That dude is dominating the paint. I think his last two games he's had three to five blocks. I know that game, or not the Elite Eight, Sweet 16, he had 5 blocks. I am also excited to watch John L. Davis. I also like Elijah Martin. He showed he's a freak athlete. I think the guard play is going to be key in this game. I think Elijah Martin, John L. Davis have to step up for Florida Atlantic to, carry the Beach Boys, not Cinderella, but I think that's key. And also, I agree with you, Benzing. Bradley's kind of played poor his last couple games, and I think he's got to step up in this spot for San Diego State to really have a shot.
So we need to get this settled because some people say they are, some people say they aren't. Is FAU a Cinderella? Because they would have gotten an at-large bid if they did not win their conference. They just happened to win Conference USA. They're still a 9 seed, right? Like, they're still in the bottom half of seedings when it comes to the tournament. I would still consider them a Cinderella. Am I wrong in that?
I wouldn't, from the fact that they were a top 25 team in the AP poll for most of the year. They've won 30 games. They were like top 18 in the net or something coming in. Like, they were a really poor underseeded team. I think there was a lot of teams that could have warranted higher seeds in this tournament, but I mean, it was just like we've talked about with this Final Four. It's just been a crazy year. There are a lot of good teams, and some of the traditional powerhouses were having off years. So, I mean, putting them at a 9 might not warrant the Cinderella tag in my eyes, but they're definitely America's team right now.
Agree with that.
So, AK, as a Hoosier fan who somehow also supports Duke, which I don't understand, but you are an IU fan first and foremost. How does it feel knowing that an Indiana, man, a guy who was on Indiana's staff, granted it was like a general assistant or,
he was the team manager.
Even better. How does it feel knowing that this is the closest IU has ever gotten to a national championship in your lifetime? for May as the head coach of FAU?
No comment. Hey, at least we lost to a team in the Final Four.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is that a consolation prize? Like, do you want to lose to a team in the
No,
Final
I'd rather
Four?
have won that game, but guard play.
I mean, as a Michigan State fan, when Kansas State won, I immediately wanted them to win the entire thing. I think it's kind of a consolation prize. Like, it doesn't hurt as much, but it also stings a little bit knowing that you could have been right there as well.
Yeah. So another thing before we get to that next set of games and kind of talk about everything as a whole, the San Diego State-Alabama game was weird. It was ugly. It was gross. They brought them down to their level. And San Diego State did the exact same thing to Creighton, where Creighton has a pretty prolific offense. How do we imagine that? And FAU has put up points. How do you see this game going? Do you see this game being a knockdown, drag it out kind of game favoring San Diego State, or do you think SDSU is going to have to keep up with FAU?
I mean, all right, so from my standpoint, I mean, Florida Atlantic played Tennessee. Tennessee's very similar defensively from that standpoint.
Yeah, they make you want to carve your eyes out with a spoon when you watch them play basketball.
Yeah.
It's just atrociously boring.
Tennessee also didn't have their point
It's like
guard.
watching Iowa play football.
That's a good comparison.
But, I mean, Florida Atlantic, I think they can match up very well. They've played low-scoring games. They've played high-scoring games. I think, realistically, they have a good shot. But I think as long as it stays in the, 50s, 60s, San Diego State has a realistic chance of winning this game.
I kind of agree there. I think this one is going to be relatively low scoring, like you described, knock down, drag it out. But I don't think that's a detriment to FAU at all. They've seemed thus far like an adaptable team from what I've watched of them. They have the guard play, and they have a traditional big man. They have a 7'2" big man. So I think they can do whatever. And yeah, I anticipate this being a mid-60s to low 60s game, both sides.
AK, I know you are into the betting weeds. Have you looked at anything on this game yet as far as what do you want to bet? Are you looking at player props, the total?
I mean, typically I look at player props, but in this game it's kind of tough to look at just because, I mean, any game I've tried looking at with San Diego State, it's just severely low scoring or ugly. I mean, best thing to look at is probably rebounds. Golden for FAU. He showed how big of a presence he was last game, rebounding the ball. I think he had his best game overall, rebounding and, grabbing those garbage points off offensive rebounds. But I think from my betting standpoint, looking at rebounds is probably the best thing for that game.
Yeah, it looks like Golden put up 14 and 13 last game. So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there as far as, what he's done, at least in recent history.
Yeah, and, if you look at the over-unders for this game compared to the next game, there's a, 20-point differential. It's insane.
Yeah.
The over-under for this game is, 130, which is really low.
Yeah, it's up to 131.5. I have been really hot on first half unders this year. However, the first half total for this game is 61. I will not be touching that as a whole. I actually might take the over. I mean, 30 points apiece is not that's not a ton to ask for from two teams in the Final Four. That being said, full game, I probably lean under. This game is currently spread-wise sitting at San Diego State is a 2-point favorite. FAU is the longest shot to win the title. I think they have plus 650 odds as it currently stands. If you guys had to bet, gun to your head, what are you picking for this game? Are you taking SDSU as the favorite, or are you taking FAU in the points?
I would be taking FAU in the points here. I just think they're a more complete team right now, and their star players have actually shown up, which in March, that's what matters.
Give me the Beach Boys.
you know.
Both of these schools are on beaches, dude. Is it, or are we just riding that's officially FAU's name?
I like the name.
The Beach
I
Boys?
like the name.
That's fair. That's fair. It's hilarious looking at like where these schools are located. You get Boca Raton, San Diego, Miami, Connecticut. Like, love that. Absolutely love it. Let's move over to that game. Miami, UConn, 5-4 matchup. A really interesting game. We've talked, it's been said several times that guard play is what wins in March. That has absolutely carried Miami. Their guards have been incredible. Isaiah Wong has had a very, very nice run for them. And UConn has been good as well. Their bigs have, their front court is also really nasty. But Hawkins looks good for UConn. What do you expect out of a Miami team that has now knocked off in back-to-back games Houston and Texas?
You can go for it.
You pretty much hit it on the head with just like impressive guard play. I mean, even their starting like big man, Norchad Omir's like 6'7", maybe. Like he'd be a guard on some teams. I think this tournament has definitely going to show that the game has changed and like how the Big Ten, you run through a big man, that doesn't work in March anymore. I mean, you got like Nigel Pack, Isaiah Wong, whatever Miller's first name
Jordan
is.
Miller.
They've been fucking super fun to watch, and I think they're going to put up a ton of points. And you described my UConn as pretty good this tournament. I think they're a little better than pretty good this tournament. I don't know if Miami's going to be able to keep up with them.
I mean, I talked to you earlier this year, Smash, about UConn, and to be honest, I was sold that this team could compete for a national championship, and then after that midseason form, I was kind of steered away from it. But seeing them in this tournament and how dominant they've been, I don't see myself, fading them. And I mean, Sonogo has played very well. He's controlled the paint. He's rebounded well. Hawkins is shooting the ball well. Andre Jackson's probably the most surprising to me, just the way they've been guarding him. He's been facilitating, passing the ball really well. I honestly think he's been leading the team in assists too. And then for Miami, I mean, Nigel Pack, he is from Indy. I mean, I do like the hometown guys, but he's played very well shooting the ball. I won't be surprised if UConn keys in on him. Just kind of like Miami's last game, they picked him up right over the timeline. Wong's got to step up. Jordan Miller exists. I honestly didn't expect him to play as well as he did, and I mean, he was perfect from the field last game and perfect from the free throw line.
Yeah, I think that's really the kind of the story of last game, and I know that I guess Texas choking was pretty tough, but Miami went an unbelievable, I think it was like 28 for 32 from the free throw line. It was absolutely incredible work from the charity stripe, and I think that really helps teams in March. Like good free throw shooting teams, good guard play. Miami checks every box. These coaches have I really think that if you in a factory like put the settings of like angry, pissed off, like high intensity, like slider all the way to one end, you would get Dan Hurley. And if you put it all the way to the other end of like calm, chill, whatever, it's Larrañaga. What coach do you like from both of these schools? Because I think both are really good coaches. I mean, obviously Larrañaga went on that run with George Mason to the Final Four back in the, what is that,
early
2000s?
Yeah.
Is that 2004?
2006
Yeah.
or 4?
2006. I think it was 2006. But which coach, like if you were, if you had to pick a coach for your squad, which one are you picking?
I mean, if I had to pick a coach to play under, I'd pick Larrañaga because I don't think I could deal with being yelled at all the time. But, like, again, Michigan State fan, Tom Izzo is the, Hurley kind of coach. So, I'll take Hurley for my team.
I mean, I played basketball, and all my coaches like to yell, so I'd probably be pretty used to Dan Hurley. I also like how he gets his team pumped. I like the energy he gives out, and, I mean, he's he stays on the refs too. It's not like he's sitting over there like Larinaga, just chilling, doing his own thing. But I'd probably play for Dan Hurley over Larinaga.
Larinaga is interesting to me because he just seems like some grandpa that you just hang out with. Like, he doesn't seem like a coach. He's just an old wise dude who knows a whole hell of a lot of basketball that you're sitting with at a bar.
Drinking whiskey.
Someone described him as like Jim Boeheim's put together younger brother, and I was like, yeah, that's
that is phenomenal.
That's pretty good.
Dan, from what I haven't watched a ton of the media stuff, but from what Dan Hurley interviews I have seen throughout this season, he actually seems like a pretty cool dude. I think outside of basketball, I would have a beer with Hurley, but just on the court, man, that dude, I have never seen anyone just hate a referee more than Dan Hurley. It's insane, but maybe it's because his older brother had a little bit more actual basketball success, but in Bobby Hurley, but I don't know. It's interesting. But talking to the game, we got to give a prediction, right? Because we can't sit here and just shoot some bullshit. Miami is currently a 5.5-point dog. Do they cover? Do they have a chance to win outright? Or are you guys riding with the Huskies?
I'm going UConn and UConn to cover. UConn has a plus 90-point differential this tournament, which is good for fourth all-time going into a Final Four game in the NCAA tournament.
I mean,
that is fucking bonkers. 90, over the course of 4 games, that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that they beat Gonzaga by 34, so.
Well, refs were calling fouls left and right in that game, too.
Also, statistically going in, there are a couple, key factors that any national championship, every national champion over the last couple of years has hit, and UConn was one of 3 teams to start the year as one of those teams. So, they're top 55, to start the tournament, not the year. They're, top 55 and top 35 in offensive and defensive efficiency. They won their first conference game, which was a rule.
I've seen a lot of they're this whatever in the AP, but winning their first conference game, that's one of the metrics.
Yeah, the all champs have come from a conference with 4+ teams. So sadly, FAU, San Diego State are out by default there, and then every champ since the year 2000 has been at least in the top 12 of the AP poll for the Week 6 AP poll. That is a weird fact, and UConn was.
That is fact. What a wild statistic. So next year when I'm filling out my bracket, I just need to pick the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll to just move along.
Yeah, and a couple other offensive and defensive efficiency stats, and you're good to go. It was them, Alabama, and Texas were the 3 that checked all those boxes. So I'm going with UConn to cover and UConn to win it all.
I'm also going with UConn.
Ooh.
They've showed me that they're back into form, and I'm not. I can't go away from the Huskies, and honestly, this Huskies run kind of gives me the vibes of Kemba Walker and that team, as well as Shabazz Napier. The Shabazz show.
Don't. I still have nightmares about that guy.
It's the run that UConn has gone over the last 25 years is impressive because they've won 5 national titles or 4 over the last 25 years.
I think 4 all time. They're on that second tier of just about a blue blood in my eyes. I think they're with the Villanovas, the Michigan States. You're right in the argument.
Yeah, blue blood talk is always interesting to me because you see every year it'll be oh wow, the blue bloods have done crazy. I can't believe Kentucky, Duke, and Auburn are out, and you're just how the fuck are you going to sneak in Auburn in there? What the hell are we doing? But all right, buddy, whatever you say. I think there's 6 blue bloods. I think it's UCLA, Duke, Kentucky, Indiana, fucking North Carolina, and Kansas. I think that's your 6, and then Michigan State, UConn, Villanova are right outside of that. would be my personal opinion. Maybe Syracuse. Do you throw Syracuse outside of that?
I would. Syracuse, Virginia, they'd be in like that tier 2. Maybe a couple.
Curious
others.
to see how Syracuse does with their new head coach.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. I think with the evolution of basketball and how it's gone the last 10, 15 years, just really emphasizing the 3-point shot and how much better college basketball players are at like shot making now. I think the 2-3 I think the zone is dead. I think it's done. I think it's run its course. I just don't think you can run that type of defense at this level and see success. But
yeah, and I don't think you're running full court presses anymore. Like I don't think you're trying to press Virginia team anymore. Like that's just not sustainable for a 40-minute basketball game.
Yeah, although those press like with Huggy, those were some fun teams.
It was, but he had freak athletes. Like
well, you have 1 year with Florida State too, where they just rotated 10, 11 guys and just pressed you full court and just rotated.
Yeah, but now most teams can break a press off the inbound. So like, and again with more guards, that's more ball handlers. I don't think the press is going to be that prevalent.
Yeah, especially when you get like. I'm convinced that they're like Texas was pretty deep. Like Texas is actually really deep, but I was convinced like Creighton did not want to sub anybody out of that game. Like they did not want to sub. They had no confidence in their bench. As far as like depth goes, I think UConn is probably the deepest, just based on like they have transfers coming off the bench that do a good job for them. And then probably San Diego State, just because they're the oldest team in the remaining. But like. I don't trust FAU's depth. I don't trust Miami's depth. So it'll be interesting. So if you guys had to pick a championship right now, who over who? What is your national title game? Is what?
UConn over FAU.
Yeah, same. UConn over FAU.
I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I'm gonna go UConn over San Diego State. I think San Diego State wins that game.
That game's closer.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I was surprised to see UConn as the odds-on favorite. I think they're minus 135 to win the title at this point. Is there any value on that at all? Like, would you guys be willing to put money on that now, or would you rather watch this Miami game, and then bet on a money line in the title?
I mean, what I did last year. I mean, I didn't take any futures, but whenever Kansas was down 20, I'm not going to lie, I definitely threw a live bet on Kansas to come back in that game. And you know what happened? They did.
Nice. So maybe live bets are the move.
Yeah, I don't have any futures, and it's just not something that I've done,
Yeah. It sucks. My future bet crash and burn with Texas. But let's talk about that real quick. Texas announced that Rodney Terry has been, signed on as their full-time head coach. He's the interim coach after Sark was fired earlier this season. Do you think that was the right call? Like, do you think Texas even considered for a moment somebody outside of the program for that job?
No. I mean, it seemed like he had the team. The players loved him. You got to the Elite Eight under an interim title. You've definitely earned that job, regardless of what school it's at. Like, I get Texas is the biggest athletic department in the entire country, but like, he proved himself.
I mean, go ahead, Smash. If you were going to say something. I mean,
no, you're good.
I think he got the best out of his players. I mean, guys like Dessou. Dessou was playing his best basketball at the right time. And he challenged him. He challenged all of his players. And, I mean, I'll be honest, Texas not having Dessou, I can't use that as an excuse, but that does hurt them in that game. But I think Terry was the right hire. And seeing his press conference interview after that game, just seeing him get emotional, and you saw how much he put into this team and how much he cared about these guys' futures. I mean, it's not just basketball. It's more than that.
Yeah, I think I love seeing like these guys show so much investment like in their players and like showing that they care. Speaking of coach talk, Jerome Tang is You could justify Coach of the Year for him, considering that wasn't Kansas State projected to be last in the Big 12 this season. Like he has done nothing short of a hell of a job in his. I believe it's his first season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's done an absolutely hell of a job. Marquise Noel is the player of the tournament. Like that's what people are probably going to take away is like summarize the 2023 tournament, and it was the story of Marquise Noel. But what do you think of Tang going into the locker room after the loss and talking to the other team, be like, "We're rooting for you guys. Like you were the toughest sons of bitches we played all year." Like, what do you think of that move? Because that's a very Coach K move.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because he's not as pretentious as Coach K. Like that felt very genuine. And again, like when MSU lost to Kansas State, I was like couldn't take any faults away from Kansas State. Like normally I'll get mad at a team. Like I was very happy that we lost to that team if we had to lose to a team. Like they were a fun team to watch, and Jerome Tang is a good guy.
I mean, it was a good game too, Benzing. Don't get me wrong.
That's fantastic.
That was probably one of the most exciting games I actually watched. Everything was fast paced. Points were put up. Guys played well. Guys stepped up that needed to step up. But I think for Tang, since Coach K did that against Mercer when they got shocked in the first round of the tournament, I've seen coaches do that from time to time, but it shows pride, and I don't mind it.
You're such a Coach K ass kisser, dude.
What a man. Yeah, but I don't mind when coaches do that. Also, on the Kansas State wave, like I was really happy for like Keontae Johnson after what happened 2 years ago to him to come back and like prove himself on the national stage as well. Like that was super cool.
Yeah, that's just an unbelievable story. After collapsing on the court at Florida and then coming back to be able to play like that insane. I heard or read somewhere that he turned down like he could have gotten like $5 million in compensation to like not play basketball again. He was like, "Fuck that! Like I want to play," which is
he probably made that back in NIL
just
deals.
Insane.
He probably made it back in NIL.
That's a lot of money. I don't know. $5 million. I think you.
As he's like an NBA prospect. Like he's a legitimate NBA prospect.
It's just a matter of taking that risk.
I think he'll be okay. Yeah, he bet on himself.
Hey, you love to see when that pays off. Last thing I really want to talk about, boys. This is incredibly selfish of me, but you know that I am a Notre Dame fan through and through. Go Irish till I die. And Micah Shrewsbury has been announced as the new head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I would like to preface this with I love Mike Bray. Like, he was such an easy coach to root for. Seemed like a cool-ass dude. He was the head coach for 23 years at Notre Dame. Like, that is essentially my entire basketball watching life. I've never known any other head coach outside of Mike Bray. That being said, what are your thoughts on the Shrewsbury hire for the Irish?
Like, again, I agree with all you just said about Mike Bray. Like, that dude was an institution. Like, it's going to be sad to see him not coaching Notre Dame because I remember some of those really good teams. But I think Shrewsbury was like a slam dunk hire, for lack of a better term. Sorry to be like pun. Like he's from Indiana, and like as a fan of Big Ten basketball primarily, like getting him out of the Big Ten is fine for me because like he's a hell of a coach. Like he turned basically a nothing Penn State program that would always have like one dude carrying them like a Taylor Battle into like a legitimate contender. So I'm excited to see what he does in the ACC.
He kind of gave me Mike Bray vibes just because, the team was filled with seniors at Penn State. All of them bought in, and, after, 3 years in that program, they made it to the tournament. And, they almost took Purdue down in the Big Ten tournament, and they made a nice little run there the first couple of rounds. Pickett, dude's a stat stuffer. Assists, rebounds, points.
I mean, like, they were a legitimate, like, 10 seed that could have gone far.
I mean, they were a scary 10 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they gave Texas a pretty good game, to be honest. Like, that was a hard-fought battle.
They beat the SEC regular season champs. So, like, they were not a slouch. Regardless of Big Ten success, like, Penn State was definitely not a slouch.
The Big Ten was a massacre.
Yeah, it's the Big Ten stuff. But I'm excited for Micah. As the thing with Notre Dame basketball has always been and always will be, can you recruit there? Because it's a different environment to recruit to than a lot of these other schools. But he can coach his ass off, so I'm excited to watch that. But fine. You guys are Big Ten guys. You brought it up. I guess we'll talk about it. The Big Ten was dog shit in this year's tournament. Start to finish, they were complete and total shit, with the exception of your Michigan State Spartans, Benzing. So let's start there. January, February, Izzo. Does that still stand? Is he Mr. March?
I mean, I think so. He's now 10-5 all time in the Sweet 16s, and his losses are like to Coach K, Bill Self, and now like Jerome Tang. So like he's still proven himself, and this year was just a really fun team to watch. I didn't even expect him to go that far, so it was a joy. But yeah, the Big Ten, definitely another disappointing showing. Not gonna lie, when Purdue lost, though, the biggest smile was upon my face because I can't stand that basketball program. Was pulling for IU, that didn't happen. But I mean, again, we just beat the shit out of each other all the time, so we're always like 6 to 10 seeds, and those seeds are traditionally, not making it all that far. They have tough runs. So I think this year proved that the coaching strategies of the Big Ten need to change. Like, you can't just run through a dominant big man anymore. Like, Edey, TJD, like the Luka Garzas, Hunter Dickinsons, like, they're not successful in March. It's all about the guard play, and I think that's going to change not just the coaching strategies, but the recruitment strategies as well, and how they utilize the portal. So we'll see how it goes next year.
Yeah, you bring that up. Every Purdue team that I can remember under Matt Painter is always the exact same. It's Robbie Hummel, it's Isaac Haas, it's Matt Harms, it's Zach Edey, it is Caleb Swanigan. It is all of the, you run the team through a big man, and then you take a nosedive when they can't pass out of double teams and you can't hit shots. And that's what happened at, Purdue could not hit a shot down the stretch that mattered. Like, they had no confidence, no faith, at all in the rest of that team around Edey. So it'll be interesting to see them change. AK, are you confident? How confident are you in the Mike Woodson era right now? Because coming into the year, I would say not making the Sweet 16 was a disappointment for IU. But overall, they were the second best team in the Big Ten. How do you feel? Are you disappointed with how the season ended?
I'm disappointed, yes. I mean, I am a Hoosier fan, but I think with what he did this season, I mean, compared to last season and this season, IU made pretty solid strides. I am curious to see who stays. Obviously, the seniors are gone, but I would hope Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Mar Bates entered the portal about an hour ago.
Well, I didn't see that, so that's awesome to hear. I'm sure.
Yeah.
AK's about to cry on the podcast.
I'm sure Hood-Schifino, I think he's projected. Is he a projected lottery pick? Something like that?
Yeah,
late lottery.
So he's probably gone. I mean, Renew played well in spots. I mean, especially when Trace got in foul trouble or Race. I'm not a big Race fan. I'm going to tell you right there. I'm going to tell you about that right now. I don't like Race. But I think IU's going in the right direction.
All IU fans I know hated their entire team individually.
But I think IU's going in the right direction.
If Trace didn't touch the ball, it was a bad offensive possession, no matter if they scored or not.
I would honestly, I'd start yelling at the TV as soon as I saw Race grab the ball. But no, they're going in the right direction. But I'm curious to see what improvements, whether it be the transfer portal or recruits they bring in. But honestly, if Archie was still there, we'd be going in the wrong direction. So
Friday night's women's game is going to be nothing short of electric. You have Caitlyn Clark, who, if my math is correct, has scored more points than the Iowa football team's offense at any point in their entire season on 6 separate occasions.
Yep.
6 separate times she scored more points than the entire Iowa football team. She just put up the first 40-point triple-double in March Madness history for both the men's and women's team. Also the first 30-point triple-double for the women's tournament. She has been insane. And then she is running up against what has been, unless, I might be mistaken, but I don't think I am. South Carolina has been a double-digit favorite in every single game throughout the entire tournament. What their program is doing, they have an absolute chainsaw. So what are you guys excited? Like, Caitlyn Clark is obviously, she's God right now. It's insane.
Yeah, she's hurt.
I mean, I want to see South Carolina lose. I'm tired of seeing them win.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a fan of Caitlyn Clark for a good amount of time now, but it's just been very nice to see the reaction she's got on social media throughout the year, because everyone was saying this year on the men's side oh, it's boring, all the good teams aren't as good as they usually are. There's no certified superstar in the college game this year, and I'm flip over to the other side and you're watching the Steph Curry of women's basketball play right now. There is definitely a college superstar out there. So watch a women's basketball game. They're entertaining. When two dominant teams are playing, they're very entertaining.
Nash, didn't you share a tweet earlier today that the women's college basketball games tickets were more expensive than the men's? For the cheapest?
Yes, the issue with that. So, I want to preface this by I love the women's game. The problem with comparing those two numbers is the men's basketball Final Four is being held in NRG Stadium in Houston. That stadium has a capacity of 72,000. The women's Final Four is being held in American Airlines Center in Dallas, where the capacity is 20,000. So you have you have more than 3.5 times the capacity for the men's Final Four than the women's Final Four, which is why the ticket prices is not the same. But what this says to me is if you have to pay $350 to get into the door at the women's Final Four, they need to be playing at a larger venue. And give more fans that accessibility, because these girls are putting on a great enough product that they deserve that. So I am super excited for these games. Caitlyn Clark is going to be nothing short of electric. What Dawn Staley has done at South Carolina is incredibly impressive. LSU's head coach, she is a character in and of herself with the flamboyant clothes and everything. But and Caitlyn Clark talking
is a wagon too. Virginia Tech is a wagon too.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is who beat a really good Ohio State team. Either yesterday or 2 days ago.
Last time.
So it's the women's tournament is exciting, and I understand a lot of people get it's all chalk all the time. The best teams are always the best. This is not like it was. This is not mid 2000s where UConn would just run through every single team. This is different. These players are great. I'm super excited to watch it.
It's annoying that they complain about the women's tournament being all chalk when this year they're complaining that not enough of the powerhouses in the men's tournament aren't in the Final Four. You can't have it both ways. The women's side has shown that there's a big appetite for the game, and I think it's a positive step.
I was also very sad there was no Paige Beckers this season.
Big buckets,
True. But it is what it is. Injuries suck. That being said, thanks again for tuning into Smash Hit Sports. If you guys like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe. Be a friend and tell a friend. That's the best way to support the show. AK, Noah, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you guys. We will see you in the next one.